Dr. Sarah Chen never expected to make history on an ordinary Tuesday morning in the Arctic Research Station Theta. The quantum fluctuation detector she designed was supposed to be monitoring background radiation, not screaming alerts at 3 a.m. about an impossible signal emanating from 2 kilometers beneath the ice. "Run it again," she ordered her assistant AI, fingers trembling slightly as she adjusted her thick-rimmed glasses. The holographic display pulsed with readings that defied everything she knew about quantum physics. The signal wasn't just complex. It was ordered in a way that shouldn't exist in nature. Mathematics that spoke of intelligence, but with patterns that made her head hurt when she tried to understand them. "Signal confirmed, Dr. Chen. Pattern consistency at 99.97%. The AI responded. "However, there's something else. The ice core samples from that depth. They're showing trace elements that don't exist on the periodic table." Sarah's heart raced as she initiated a full station alert. Within minutes, the cramped research module was filled with her bleary-eyed colleagues. Dr. Marcus Wong, the geologist, Dr. Emily Rahman, the archaeologist, and Station Chief David Cooper. "This better be good, Chen," Cooper grumbled, his weathered face lined with interrupted sleep. "We're not funded for middle-of-the-night emergencies." Sarah projected the signal analysis onto the main screen. 2 hours ago, our quantum detector picked up something impossible. A signal that shouldn't exist, coming from deep within the ice. But here's the real kicker. It's not random. It's not natural. It's a message. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Emily stepped closer to the display, her archaeological training kicking in. "These patterns, they're almost like a language, but operating on quantum principles we barely understand." "That's not all," Sarah continued, bringing up the ice core data. "The trace elements we're finding at the signal's origin point, they're not just unknown, they're impossible. They exhibit properties that violate our understanding of atomic structure." Marcus whistled low. "You're saying we found something artificial? 2 kilometers down in ice that's been frozen for millions of years." "I'm saying we found something that rewrites everything we think we know about Earth's history. And it's not just sitting there. It's actively trying to communicate." Cooper's expression had shifted from annoyed to intensely focused. "What kind of message?" Sarah pulled up the preliminary analysis. "It's repeating the same quantum signature over and over, but with subtle variations, like someone left a quantum answering machine, and it's been waiting millions of years for someone to finally develop technology sophisticated enough to hear it." "Can we respond?" Emily asked, her dark eyes bright with excitement. Sarah shook her head. "Not yet, but I've been working on something." She pulled up schematics for a device she'd been developing in her spare time. "If we can modify our quantum detector array, we might be able to send a simple acknowledgement signal. Let whatever left this message know that someone's finally listening." Cooper studied the schematics, then the signal data, before making a decision that would change human history. "Do it, but keep this quiet for now. The last thing we need is a media circus before we know what we're dealing with." Over the next 72 hours, Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to modify their equipment. They took shifts sleeping, fueled by coffee and the electric excitement of discovery. Finally, on the 3rd day, they were ready. "Signal modification complete," Sarah announced, her hands steady now despite the exhaustion. "If I'm right about the quantum frequency modulation, this should register as an intelligent response." The team gathered around the console as Sarah initialized the transmission. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then the quantum detector erupted with new data. "It's responding," Sarah exclaimed, watching as complex patterns formed in the quantum field. "But this is strange. It's not just acknowledging our signal. It's changing." Deep beneath the ice, something ancient stirred to life. The quantum signal intensified, and with it came new readings that had Emily rushing to her instruments. "We're detecting structural changes in the ice. Whatever's down there, it's not just sending signals anymore. It's activating." Suddenly, the research station's lights flickered as an electromagnetic pulse washed over them. When the systems stabilized, a new holographic projection filled the center of the room, a three-dimensional star map unlike anything they'd ever seen. And at its center, pulsing with an impossible light, was Earth. "My God," Marcus breathed, reaching out to touch the hologram. "It's not just a message, it's an archive. Someone left their history buried in our ice, waiting for us to find it." Sarah studied the intricate patterns of light and data streaming through the projection. "Not their history," she corrected, her voice filled with wonder. "Ours. This is about Earth, about humanity, and whoever left it here has been watching us for a very, very long time." As the team stared at the star map, none of them noticed the subtle changes beginning in their quantum detector. The device wasn't just receiving signals anymore. It was being rewritten, upgraded by patterns of information that had waited millions of years to be found. Humanity's first step into a much larger universe had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The holographic star map had been projecting for 6 hours when the first government teams arrived. Sarah watched from her workstation as black helicopters descended through the Arctic wind, bringing with them a mix of military personnel and civilian scientists. Among them was Dr. James Harrison, the renowned cynoarchaeologist whose work on theoretical alien civilizations had earned him both acclaim and ridicule. "Remarkable," Harrison breathed, studying the quantum readings with intense focus. "In all my years theorizing about first contact scenarios, I never imagined it would happen like this. An archive of information, buried in our own backyard, waiting for us to evolve enough to find it." Sarah nodded, pulling up the latest data streams. "The quantum signatures are unlike anything we've ever seen, but what's even more fascinating is how the archive is adapting. It's not just showing us information. It's learning how we process data and adjusting its output accordingly." Harrison stroked his silver beard thoughtfully, almost as if it was designed to evolve alongside whoever discovered it. "Tell me about these pattern anomalies you've noticed." "That's where it gets interesting," Sarah replied, bringing up a new set of readings. "The archive isn't just teaching us about alien civilizations. It's showing us how they've been studying us. Look at these observation patterns. They span centuries, monitoring human development with particular focus on our technological evolution." Emily joined them, carrying fresh analysis from the archaeological team. "We've managed to decode more of the temporal data. The archive wasn't placed here millions of years ago as we initially thought. It's been actively updating itself for at least the past 10,000 years. "Updating itself?" Harrison's eyebrows rose. "How?" "Through quantum entanglement," Sarah explained, excitement creeping into her voice. "The archive maintains connections across vast distances through principles we're only beginning to understand. It's not just a record. It's a node in a vast network, collecting and storing data about Earth and humanity." Marcus burst into the room, his usual composed demeanor shattered by excitement. "You need to see this. We've started decoding some of the observational data. And, well, it's easier if I show you." The team followed him to the main research bay, now crowded with holographic displays showing scenes from human history. But not as they'd learned it. They watched in amazement as the archive revealed countless moments where alien civilizations had secretly witnessed humanity's greatest achievements and struggles. "They were there," Emily whispered, watching a scene from ancient Egypt where subtle anomalies in the sky indicated cloaked observation platforms. "All throughout our history, watching us build, innovate, fight, and grow." "But why?" Cooper asked, speaking for the first time since the government teams arrived. "Why watch us for so long without making contact?" Dr. Harrison stepped forward, his eyes fixed on a particular data stream. "Because we're different," he said softly. "Look at these comparative analyses. They've been studying how we solve problems, how we innovate. And according to this data, we do it unlike any other species they've encountered." Sarah leaned in, reading the complex quantum data. "He's right. They're fascinated by our chaos, our unpredictability. Where other species follow logical progression in their development, we make intuitive leaps. We combine unrelated concepts to create something new. We innovate through chaos, and that's what makes us valuable, Harrison concluded, or dangerous, depending on the perspective. We're an anomaly in a galaxy that seems to prefer order and logical progression. A new hologram materialized, showing a spectrum of technological development across various civilizations. Earth's pattern was jagged, unpredictable, with massive leaps followed by periods of stagnation. Every other species showed smooth, predictable curves of advancement. Look at this. Sarah pointed to a particular section. During our Industrial Revolution, we made technological leaps that should have taken centuries according to their models. We didn't just progress. We exploded with innovation in ways they couldn't predict or understand. Dr. Chen, one of the military officers, interrupted. We're detecting a change in the archive's energy signature. It's increasing. The room fell silent as new data began streaming across the displays. The archive wasn't just showing them history anymore. It was displaying real-time information, and what they saw made their blood run cold. Those patterns, Harrison muttered, his face pale. They're similar to what we observed when the archive first activated. But these are coming from out there. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, analyzing the new data. It's not just similar, it's identical. When we responded to the archive's signal, we didn't just activate a recording. We triggered a beacon, and something out there just received our response. The holographic star map suddenly shifted, highlighting a pattern of movement at the edge of charted space. Something was coming. Something that had been waiting for humanity to find the archive. Emily voiced what they were all thinking. I don't think we're just being studied anymore. I think we just passed some kind of test. The question is, what happens now? As if in answer, the archive began displaying new information. Detailed data about advanced technologies, defensive systems, and a warning that made their earlier discoveries seem trivial by comparison. The true purpose of the archive was finally revealing itself, and with it, humanity's role in a cosmic drama they never knew existed. The archive's warning came in waves of quantum data, each more disturbing than the last. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to decode the information as military commanders and government officials crowded the newly established command center within Research Station Theta. The symmetrics, Dr. Harrison translated, his voice grave as he studied the latest decryption. That's what they call themselves. A species so advanced they've transcended biological form, becoming pure energy and mathematical precision. Sarah pulled up the detailed analysis. According to this, they've spent millennia perfecting what they call universal harmony, the belief that chaos must be eliminated from the cosmos. They seek to impose perfect order on every civilization they encounter. And how do they impose this order? Cooper asked, though his expression suggested he already knew the answer. Emily, who had been cross-referencing historical data, projected a new star map. By force. Look at these patterns. She highlighted a series of systems. Each of these stars hosted advanced civilizations. All of them fell to the symmetrics within the last 1,000 years. The room watched as simulation after simulation played out, showing how the symmetrics operated. Their ships moved with perfect geometric precision. Their weapons reshaped space itself into orderly patterns that destroyed anything that didn't conform to their mathematical ideals. They're not just conquering these civilizations, Marcus observed, they're rewriting them, forcing them to adopt perfect, predictable patterns of existence, which explains why we were being studied, Sarah added, bringing up the comparative analysis of human development. Our chaos, our unpredictability. It makes us completely incompatible with their vision of universal order. Harrison nodded grimly. We're not just different. We're anathema to everything they believe. Our very existence challenges their fundamental worldview. A young lieutenant burst into the room, tablet in hand. Deep space arrays just picked up multiple objects entering the solar system. The patterns match what we're seeing in the archive's data about symmetric scout ships. The command center erupted into activity as military personnel began mobilizing Earth's defenses. But Sarah noticed something odd in the archive's latest data stream. "Wait," she called out, enhancing a particular section of the quantum readout. "The archive. It's not just warning us. It's trying to tell us something about the symmetric's weakness." The holographic display shifted, showing detailed analysis of previous encounters between the symmetrics and other civilizations. In each case, the targeted species had attempted to fight back using their most advanced technology. And in each case, they had failed. "Look at this pattern." Sarah pointed to a particular engagement. When civilizations used predictable, advanced technology against them, the symmetrics adapted instantly. Their perfect mathematical nature let them calculate and counter any logical approach. "But we don't fight logically," Cooper mused, beginning to understand. "Exactly." Sarah's eyes lit up with realization. The archive wasn't just studying us. It was identifying a potential weapon against the symmetrics. Our chaos, our illogical leaps of innovation, our ability to combine unrelated concepts in ways that defy prediction. Harrison finished her thought. "We're the only species they've encountered that might be able to challenge them, precisely because we don't follow their rules of perfect order." The archive suddenly pulsed with new energy, projecting a series of technical schematics. Sarah gasped as she recognized what she was seeing. "These are defense systems," she explained, scrolling through the quantum data. But not just any defense systems. They're hybrid designs, combining advanced alien technology with human innovation patterns. The archive has been analyzing our development, learning how we think, and creating theoretical weapons that blend our chaos with their advancement. Emily studied the designs with growing excitement. "It's brilliant. The symmetrics can predict and counter any logical weapon, no matter how advanced. But these," she gestured to the schematics, "these follow human innovation patterns. They're unpredictable, improvised, combining technologies in ways that no logical species would ever attempt." "Can we build them?" Cooper asked, his military training focusing on the practical challenges ahead. Sarah shared a look with Harrison before responding. "Better than that. We can improve them. The archive gives us the basic frameworks, but it's specifically designed to let us modify and enhance them in our own chaotic way. The more human unpredictability we add, the harder it will be for the symmetrics to counter them." The lieutenant returned, his face pale. "Scout ships will reach Mars orbit in less than 48 hours. Long-range scans suggest they're already beginning to impose their geometric patterns on local space." Sarah squared her shoulders, facing the room full of humanity's defenders. "Then we have 48 hours to do what humans do best, take an impossible situation and find a completely illogical way to survive it. The symmetrics want to impose perfect order on the galaxy. Let's show them why chaos has its own kind of power." As if in response to her words, the archive's displays began showing new data. The locations of similar archives hidden on other worlds, left by the same mysterious benefactors. Earth wasn't just fighting for itself. It was being recruited for a greater purpose. Humanity's chaotic nature might be the key to saving not just their own civilization, but countless others across the galaxy. The question was, could they prepare enough of their unique brand of innovative chaos before the symmetrics arrived in force? The race against time had begun, and the fate of more than just Earth hung in the balance. 48 hours wasn't much time to prepare for an alien invasion, but humanity had never been good at accepting impossible deadlines. The Arctic Research Station had transformed into a global command center, its corridors now bustling with the most brilliant and unconventional minds Earth could gather on short notice. Sarah watched in amazement as the improvised defense network took shape. The archive's hybrid technology designs were being modified and enhanced in ways that even she hadn't anticipated. It was beautiful chaos in action. The Garage Quantum Lab in Mumbai just came online, Marcus reported, monitoring the global network. They've managed to integrate classic Indian tabla rhythms into the quantum field generators. The resulting patterns are completely unpredictable unless you understand classical Indian music theory. Emily rushed in, tablet displaying new test results. The Aboriginal Dreamtime defense grid is operational. They've somehow merged their ancient songline mapping with our quantum entanglement technology. The symmetric sensors won't just have to decode the technology. They'll have to understand 60,000 years of oral tradition to predict the pattern shifts. Perfect, Sarah grinned. How's Project Jazz coming along? Harrison looked up from his station. New Orleans team reports success. They've created a quantum defense shield that modulates based on improvised jazz patterns. Every time a musician starts a new solo, the shield frequencies shift in ways that follow human musical intuition rather than mathematical logic. The room's main display showed the approaching symmetric scout ships. Their perfect geometric patterns were already beginning to reshape the space around Mars, imposing mathematical order on the natural chaos of the solar system. First contact in 20 minutes, Cooper announced. Time to see if our brand of chaos can disrupt their perfect order. Sarah opened a global channel to all defense stations. Remember, everyone, don't think logically. Don't try to optimize. The moment our defenses become predictable is the moment they become vulnerable. Let human creativity and intuition guide your responses. The first test came as a symmetric scout attempted to analyze Earth's defensive grid. Its sensors, designed to decode and counter any logical defense pattern, encountered something unprecedented. A global network of quantum technologies operating on principles ranging from jazz improvisation to Aboriginal Dreamtime mapping to classical Indian rhythms. They're trying to establish a baseline pattern, Marcus reported, watching the sensor data. But every time they think they've found one, we shift to a new cultural framework. They can't predict what they can't understand. The scout ship's perfect geometric form actually shuddered as it attempted to process the chaotic defense grid. Its attempts to impose order on the quantum fields were met with endless variations of human cultural expression translated into technological form. Multiple ships now engaging, Cooper called out. They're attempting to coordinate their analysis. Sarah smiled as she watched the symmetrics encounter human chaos on a grand scale. Show them what we've got. Activate all secondary systems. Across the globe, new layers of defense came online. A network of quantum repeaters in Brazil operating on samba rhythms. A Chinese defense grid modulating based on Tai Chi movements. African drum circles directly controlling orbital defense platforms through quantum entanglement. The symmetric scouts' perfect formations began to waver as they encountered defense pattern after defense pattern, each operating on principles foreign to their mathematical worldview. Their attempts to impose order were met with ever-increasing layers of human creative expression. They're pulling back, Harrison announced, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. The scouts are actually retreating to regroup. A cheer went up around the command center, but Sarah remained focused on the long-range sensors. They'll be back, she cautioned. And next time, it won't be scouts. The real test is still coming. Emily joined her at the main console. But now we know our approach works. Human chaos really can disrupt their perfect order. More than that, Sarah replied, studying the archive's latest data stream. Look at this. The archive is already analyzing how our defensive innovations differ from its original designs. It's learning from us, incorporating our chaos into its database. Harrison stroked his beard thoughtfully. Perhaps that was the true purpose all along. Not just to warn us about the symmetrics, but to preserve and spread humanity's unique approach to innovation. The archive's displays shifted, showing new schematics based on the defensive systems humanity had just created. The hybrid designs now incorporated elements of human cultural expression, artistic improvisation, and intuitive leaping. We're not just defending Earth, Sarah realized. We're creating a template for other species to resist the symmetrics. Our chaos isn't just a weapon, it's a gift to the galaxy. Cooper cleared his throat. That's assuming we survive what comes next. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. The symmetric main fleet is coming. Sarah squared her shoulders. Then it's time for Phase 2. Humanity's been improvising solutions to impossible problems since we first looked up at the stars. Let's show these perfect beings why a little chaos can be a wonderful thing. As if in response to humanity's successful defense, the archive began transmitting new data, signals indicating that other archives across the galaxy were activating. Earth wasn't going to fight alone. The question was, could they hold out long enough for other species to learn from their example? The real battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weakness, its chaotic, unpredictable nature, was about to become its greatest strength. The symmetric main fleet arrived in a display of perfect geometric precision that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so terrifying. Their massive ships arranged themselves in fractal patterns around the solar system, beginning the methodical process of imposing order on space itself. In the Arctic Command Center, Sarah and her team watched as humanity prepared for its greatest test. The global defense network had evolved far beyond its original designs, incorporating layers of human creativity that would have been impossible just days ago. Main fleet will be in range in 10 minutes, Cooper reported, his voice steady despite the tension. All defense stations report ready. Sarah studied the incoming fleet formations. They're different from the scouts. Look at how they're arranging themselves. It's not just about tactical advantage. They're trying to impose their concept of perfect order on reality itself. Good, Harrison replied, surprising everyone. The more they commit to their perfect patterns, the more vulnerable they'll be to actual chaos. The first wave of symmetric ships launched their attack, their weapons transforming space into crystalline patterns of mathematical perfection. But instead of encountering organized resistance, they found themselves facing what could only be described as technological jazz. Earth's orbital defense platforms, guided by musicians in New Orleans, created quantum interference patterns that followed no logical progression. Aboriginal Dreamtime shields warped space in ways that reflected 60,000 years of storytelling rather than mathematical principles. Indian classical musicians modulated defense frequencies in ragas that had taken centuries to perfect. They're trying to adapt, Marcus called out, monitoring the symmetric response. But every time they develop a counter to one cultural pattern, we shift to another. They can't predict what they don't understand. The symmetric's perfect formations began to show signs of strain. Their attempts to impose geometric order were met with layer upon layer of human creative expression, translated into technological form. A Chinese quantum field modulated by Tai Chi movements disrupted their navigational systems. African drum circles controlled swarms of microsatellites that moved in rhythms impossible to predict through pure mathematics. Emily's eyes widened as she studied the sensor readings. The archive was right. They literally cannot process this level of creative chaos. Their entire civilization is built on the idea that everything can be reduced to perfect mathematical patterns. And we're showing them that the most beautiful parts of existence defy that kind of reduction, Sarah finished, watching as humanity's chaotic defense continued to disrupt the symmetric assault. The alien fleet's response was unprecedented. They began to combine their ships into larger and larger structures, creating a vast geometric entity that dwarfed anything humanity had ever seen. They're trying to increase their processing power, Harrison observed, building a system large enough to identify patterns in our chaos. Sarah's expression shifted from concern to inspiration. Then let's give them more chaos than any system could process. Open a channel to all defense stations. She took a deep breath before addressing the global network. Everyone, this is Dr. Chen. The symmetrics think they can understand our chaos by building a bigger computer. Let's show them why humanity's creativity can never be reduced to mere computation. Implement final protocol. Cultural fusion. Around the world, Defense stations began combining their approaches in ways that even Sarah hadn't imagined. New Orleans jazz merged with Indian classical music to create quantum field modulations that followed both traditions while conforming to neither. Aboriginal songlines intertwined with African rhythms to guide defense platforms in patterns that reflected millennia of human cultural evolution. The massive symmetric entity shuddered as it encountered this new level of chaos. Its attempts to impose mathematical order were met with an explosion of human creative expression that defied any attempt at logical analysis. Energy spike. Marcus shouted. The symmetric fleet is. Their patterns are breaking down. The command center watched in awe as the perfect geometric formations began to fragment. The symmetric's desperate attempt to comprehend humanity's chaos had forced them to confront a fundamental truth, that not everything in the universe could be reduced to perfect mathematical order. The massive entity started to collapse, its component ships breaking formation as their unified computational effort failed to process the infinite variations of human creative expression. The few ships that maintained their coherence began a rapid retreat, leaving behind their shattered attempt at imposing universal order. As the last symmetric ships fled the solar system, the archive's displays came alive with new data. Similar archives across the galaxy were activating, sharing what they had witnessed. Humanity hadn't just defended Earth. They had proved that chaos and creativity were essential parts of cosmic existence. Sarah smiled as she read the incoming transmissions from other civilizations. We didn't just win a battle, she announced to the tired but triumphant team. We've started a revolution. Other species are beginning to embrace their own forms of creative chaos, breaking free from the symmetric's imposed order. Harrison nodded sagely. Perhaps that was the true purpose of the archives all along. Not just to warn us about the symmetrics, but to preserve humanity's gift to the galaxy. The understanding that true innovation, true beauty, requires a balance between order and chaos. The archive's final transmission confirmed his theory, displaying a message that had waited millennia to be revealed. To the species that could master chaos without being consumed by it, the galaxy is ready for your symphony. As celebrations erupted around the world, Sarah stared up at the stars, now freed from the symmetric's attempt at geometric perfection. Humanity had proven that their greatest perceived weakness, their chaotic, unpredictable nature, was actually their greatest strength. And now, they had a galaxy of possibilities to explore, armed with the knowledge that sometimes the most beautiful patterns are the ones that can't be predicted. The age of perfect order was over. The age of creative chaos had begun.